The question is that the address be agreed to. I call the member for Casey.
Thank you very much, Mr Deputy Speaker, and I rise to speak in this address in reply, the first item of business for the 44th Parliament, and in doing so thank the people of Casey for their support and endorsement at the election on September the 7th last year. The electorate of Casey underwent a redistribution between the 43rd and 44th Parliaments. In political terms, that reduced the Liberal margin in Casey from a little over 4% to about 1.9%. The electorate increased in size basically threefold, taking in all of the Yarra Valley, the towns of Steeles Creek, Yarra Glen, Healesville, and all of the towns along the Warburton Highway, just to name a few. It meant that the campaign was a very different campaign to previous campaigns in the smaller electorate of Casey. The result that we received on election day saw a swing of more than 5% to the Liberal Party in the electorate of Casey. I was humbled by that result, Deputy Speaker. It represented a strong level of support for the policies that we enunciated prior to the election at a national level and some of the local commitments to build a stronger and safer community in the electorate of Casey. I thank all of those people who voted for the coalition in the 2013 election, some of them for the very first time after witnessing what had been obviously the most dysfunctional and chaotic government in their lifetime. Deputy Speaker, as you well know, all of us come to this place having had unbelievable levels of support from people within our electorates. I want to particularly thank those members of the Liberal Party of Australia in Casey who have always done so much to support me and to support our cause. Led by Fran Henderson, the chair of the Casey FEC, Vice Presidents Brian McCarthy and Annette Stone, the Secretary Fiona Ogilvie O'Donnell, the Treasurer Jill Hutchison, Rex McConaughey, and an extended campaign team of Jim and Gwen Dixon, Peter Manders, Matt Mills, Steve MacArthur, Mark Verschure and Ian Wood. All of these people did so much in the lead-up and throughout the election campaign to get the Liberal message out. There is so much that has to be done in an election campaign. All of us in this House rely on the support of people who believe in the democratic process and believe in our respective causes. I want to particularly mention Rex McConaughey, who looked after the campaign rooms and together with Jim Dixon and Peter Manders had the unenviable task of erecting signs all over the 2,500 square kilometres of the Yarra Valley throughout the campaign. We were joined on regular weekend campaign runs by another large group of volunteers: Byron Hodgkinson, Brent Crockford, Liam Barry, Sam Campbell, Daniel Harrison, Josh Reamer, Andrew Hallam, Jodie Twardale, Max Lamb, Andrew Ermel, Scott and Stephanie Marshall, and last but certainly not least, Mr Deputy Speaker, a former member for Casey and I know an old friend of the Chief Government Whip, Mr Peter Faulkner, the member for Casey between 1975 and 1983, who still to this day, despite a very busy business life, takes time off to help in the election, and he has that difficult job, as the Chief Government Whip would appreciate, of driving me around to polling booths on election day. It's something he likes to do, and he's done at every one of my elections since 2001. So a particular thanks to the former member for Casey, Peter Faulkner. Oh, well, there we go. There we go. The election, of course, was about a number of key national issues. In Casey, the message I got consistently, and this was reflected in the result, was that the carbon tax had to go. This is a message that the people of Casey endorsed. It is a message that those opposite refuse to hear. But like all members on this side of the House, we were elected with a mandate to axe Labor's tax, and it's a tax that's doing so much damage to so many businesses and households in the Casey electorate. The Casey electorate is a mixture of outer suburban and rural areas. It has some of the best and most innovative food producers. You have food producers paying higher and higher electricity bills that put them at a cost and a competition disadvantage with their competitors overseas. And time again, this message was delivered by us and endorsed by the electorate. The electorate also want to see the budget repaired. They know this is difficult, but intuitively they know that Labor's way of debt and deficit cannot go on forever. And they want to see red tape reduced, red tape that is strangling the small and medium businesses who our community depends so much on for a job and for the local economy. Deputy Speaker, during the period before the election, I took the then Leader of the Opposition and now Prime Minister to Garden City Plastics, which is a great example of a business hurt by Labor's carbon tax and still feeling that pain today. They are Australia's premium plastic pot manufacturer, and the carbon tax adds massively to their electricity bill. They don't sell individual plastic pots. By the nature of their business, they sell by the 1,000, by the 10,000. And so they tender for contracts, and their main competition is foreign. And so the carbon tax is making them less competitive. It's upping their cost structure and acting as a reverse tariff. That is something that Labor refuses to see, and they are waiting to see the tax axed. 2 days before the election, I took the now Prime Minister to Aussie Growers Fruits in Sylvan, an innovative food production firm that has a number of labels in our supermarkets, and again bearing the burden of that jacked up electricity price that makes their business harder and harder. This could not have been a clearer message during the election campaign. Before polling day, Labor acknowledged that the carbon tax was a big campaign issue, and having seen the result, they are determined to ignore it. Mr Deputy Speaker, the businesses and the households of Casey want to see the carbon tax axed. They want to see their electricity bills come down. They want to see their businesses become more competitive so they can provide greater opportunity to people wanting jobs, wanting to expand, wanting to do more in the local community. Deputy Speaker, during the election campaign, I also advocated policies for a stronger local economy and a stronger and safer community. I announced 4 Green Army projects, practical projects to restore the local environment, a number of sporting projects to strengthen our sporting clubs who play such a great role in the community and for the community. For a safer community, more closed-circuit television cameras. Many years ago, during the Howard government, I was pleased to see some of the first federally funded CCTV cameras in the electorate of Casey, in Croydon, in Lilydale and in Mount Evelyn. And I've seen with the community firsthand the great effect they have in cutting down on crime. And so I was pleased to announce that if our government was elected, we would extend the camera network at Lilydale and we would introduce one in Healesville and in Yarra Junction. I was also pleased to be able to pledge funding to the METEC Driver Training Centre, a not-for-profit driver training centre right in the heart of the Yarra Valley, in pledging funds to them to upgrade their facilities so that they can more effectively teach young drivers safe driving before they get their licence. And, Mr Deputy Speaker, I was very pleased to be able to announce that an Abbott government would fund a key tourism project in the Yarra Valley, the restoration of a historic railway between Yarra Glen and Healesville, a project that had been identified by the community and all of the small business community as a vital project to build the local economy and to build tourism in that region. Indeed, Mr Deputy Speaker, in June, the former government, under the former Minister for Regional Australia, the member for Ballarat, announced that it was going to fund this project. In fact, it announced so on the 7th of June. On that day, it announced two other projects to be funded, one in the electorate of McEwen and the other in the electorate of Deakin. But by the time the election was called, amazingly for those in the Yarra Valley, both of the contracts in McEwen and Deakin had been signed off, but the project in the Yarra Valley had been left on the minister's desk. Clearly a decision by Labor to forget their promise and to betray the people of the Yarra Valley. I was very pleased to be able to make the pledge that if we were elected, we would honour the full amount of money for that railway, and indeed we will. And I'm looking very forward to that project proceeding. It will build jobs, build tourism in the heart of the Yarra Valley, in an area that was so affected by the Black Saturday fires 5 years ago. Lives were affected, as we know. The local economy was also affected, and this is a project that, once up and running, people will look back on as a key driver of the local economy. Mr Deputy Speaker, let me conclude by again thanking all of the electors of the electorate of Casey. For those who supported me nearly 6 months ago at the election on the 7th of September, I say thank you and I won't let you down. For those who did not support me, I say I will do my very best for all the electors of Casey here in the parliament to represent them and to represent policies that will build the strongest community there in the Yarra Valley.